Welcome back to Women's Wealth, The Middle Way, the show that answers your questions about work, money, and family. My name is Susan McGlory Michael, and I am the CEO and founder of Gleneagle, a wealth management firm in New Jersey.
My name's Carol Ann Fernandez, and I'm the COO of Gleneagle, a wealth management firm in New Jersey. And we're very excited today to be joined by our guest, Wendy Dawson, who is founder and CEO of inquenpro.com, which runs the Spectrum Linx app and is an organization that helps families and children with autism through online lessons and coaching. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you so much.
I thought it'd be helpful maybe if you could just share a little bit about your background with our listeners.
About 25 years ago, when I married my husband, I became stepmom to a wonderful young man who had been diagnosed on the autism spectrum. And I didn't really know what autism was at that point in time. I didn't know what a life path looking forward looked like. So that was the start of my learning journey. So from that point on, we were trying to figure out how can we get social supports for this child and do the best we can between the houses, minimizing that back and forth, which was really important. So that's really when my journey started, and the epiphany for starting services was when our son was in about 6th grade, and I was picking him up from school one day. By now he's tall, he's almost 12 years old, and he walks out of school, and I really felt like he did not understand the macro environment. I wasn't getting calls for Boy Scout retreats. We weren't being involved in the play dates or the sleepovers or those types of sports activities. And so I really started questioning myself about what am I doing wrong as a stepmom and how am I not supporting him to the fullest extent. So I went back and read all the reports about what the diagnosis meant and what we could do. So we had done speech, we had done physical therapy, we'd done occupational therapy, and there it was, social skills. And I was like, oh, it was like a light bulb for me. And I was like, well, where can I go get social skills classes? And I think I'm a pretty smart person. I know how to use Google. This, again, is 20 years ago. So clicky. We live in Houston, Texas. We have a ton of resources. And I couldn't find anything. And I was like, surely in a city the size of Houston, we have resources. But no, there wasn't any. I had quit working by that time, had 2 children of our own, and really started to draw on my background in commodity banking, where the whole premise is a structure and economy of scale and standardized best practices to a very fragmented market. And I felt that's what special education and particularly this need for social skills was. So my thought was, let's create a curriculum at a headquarters level that then we could replicate and punch out over multiple locations around Houston so that we ease the burden on the families for transportation in the afternoons. Many families have other kids. Houston's got traffic issues. If we have a hub and spoke model, hopefully we can bring these purely social skills classes to our family and so many families like us around Houston. So that was the start of the Social Motion program back in 2010. I am not an educator by background, and this kind of dovetails into your thought. So I quickly realized that I needed support in that area. My colleague, Brandy Timmons, who was a board-certified behavior analyst, came on a couple years later and was really instrumental in upgrading our curriculum, bringing evidence-based practices to what we were teaching in the classes. We were able to do a program evaluation with the University of Houston, which brought a lot of credence to our program. So we started out with 6 kids in a church, and today we serve about 200 kids around Houston in an after-school social skills program, ages K through gray, we call it, K through young adults. Our oldest young adult is in their 40s. So it's just been a wonderful journey of recognizing this gap in the market and frankly having the time and the resources to be able to bring these services to our community. And of course, with a wonderful team and a lot of support from family.
Wow, that is amazing. And then taking it, seeing a need and taking it on and building something you make it sound easy, but I know that is definitely challenging. One of the things I know you talked a little bit about, but maybe can build on is I believe it started as a nonprofit and then converted into a for-profit company. Like, how did that shift work? What are some things that surprised you about making that transition?
Oh, that might have been easy. We actually started a new for-profit company. So no, now we have two companies.
Oh my gosh. You're not busy enough, right?
No, yeah. So the nonprofit remains a nonprofit. And this was such a huge learning curve too, because I meet a lot of moms who think that they want to start a nonprofit because they have a beautiful social service idea. They want to give back. They want to be able to raise money to provide services to either children or families at low or no cost. What I realized is it really is in itself a complicated business model, as complicated as a for-profit business model. I actually do a lot of mentoring in that area, helping individuals understand, do you really realize what it takes to run a nonprofit and to be successful in having a board and doing fundraising and making disbursements and then filing your different tax return every year. Absolutely rewarding. But during COVID time, we had already been working in the virtual services world and really realized that there was so much potential for virtual services to take what we were doing as boots on the ground in Houston and lift them up to a virtual platform. So before Zoom was popular, we were doing virtual social skills. And then COVID hit and we realized that families were looking for more resources. We were spending hours a week on the phone answering questions like, my child just got diagnosed. Now what do I do? How do I find a pediatric neurologist? Where do I find karate lessons that would be inclusive for my kid? How do I work with the schools to get the most out of the IEPs and the arts that they need? So answering the phone and taking hours with each person, as heart-filling as that is, was really unsustainable. So we created a new company really to enter the ed tech world and to start populating a resource platform with all these answers. So that is when Spectrum Linx was born, and it is an app that is now available in the Apple and the Google stores. It is a community-based platform for parents to connect, for them to have access to professionals who can answer their questions, to find coaches, life coaching and parent coaching, to provide special service providers, and also to be able to draw down on curated courses, some that we have created and some that we love from partner providers, to bring these resources into an affordable format, on demand, on your phone, so that families, no matter where you live, have much more equitable access to autism expertise wherever they live. As long as there's Wi-Fi, they can basically be receiving services. So that's how we complemented the nonprofit company. So now Encuentro is the name of the for-profit. We offer transition services in our center in Houston in person. We do research work. We were recently granted a National Science Foundation grant to do research on a virtual reality product for transition age youth. And we also run this app. So really just having those two mechanisms has been, I think, very symbiotic for us, because the best way to be highly charitable is to have a way to make funds and to be able to generate that into gives back to the community. So we all remember where we've come from. My team is all educators, and we see the need in the community. So by working a for-profit model, being able to bring value to a business community and seek some small business grants that don't fund nonprofits because they really want to empower a small women-owned business. We have that side of the coin. And then, of course, we continue our grant raising efforts for the nonprofit side.
And it's interesting and awesome that you guys have so many different avenues and are reaching way beyond just your immediate community, which I think is so important, especially with something like autism that's hitting families everywhere. So that was very helpful. And I'm sure anyone listening who knows someone with autism or is struggling with this really appreciates knowing these different resources. Just one last question, then, because I don't want to take too much of your time. I know you're very busy, but what advice would you give to parents who want to take a personal challenge like you did and start a business or develop a resource that they can share with others in similar ways that you took the challenges of the social aspect for your son and made it all into a company?
So it's a really great question. I think firstly, don't underestimate the amount of effort that it takes. It's really hard to raise a family. It's really hard to raise children, to have those demands and pressures and time needs. And we always put the kids priority first. So it really wasn't until I became an empty nester or the kids were certainly in school that I found myself with enough time during the day to where I could devote to business. It's really hard to start your business when you don't have cash flow, but you need help. I did a lot of the work by myself until such time that I was able to hire a second person. And honestly, my salary to this day is kept really low because we like to keep our expenses low. So finding a team, finding either volunteer friends or fractional help can be a good way to achieve your goals in a cost-effective manner. The nonprofit side, I often encourage people who have a great idea. I ask them the question, do you want to start a company or do you want to start a program or an activity? Do you want to offer social skills or do you want to run a company that offers social skills? Because if you have a project, if you want to teach art lessons or teach Lego or do inclusive sports or do coaching or teaching, is there another nonprofit that you could partner with or nestle under so that you don't have to take on the administrative burden and you could really focus on bringing your service to the market? So nowadays in collaborations and partnerships, especially as a startup, I always encourage people to really research their ecosystem, I call it, and figure out who else is doing something like what you're doing where you could strengthen their activities and perhaps they could strengthen yours. What do you have to offer them and what do they have that they could offer you? Because it's just a huge undertaking and a startup is just that. So some people are lucky out the gate.
Great advice.
And they're able to maybe make TikTok videos and get an instant stream. I wasn't one of those. So we had to go a more sane route and steady as she goes. We're the tortoise and the hare race. But yeah, I think starting out with partnerships that buy you time to grow and reputation and brand recognition is always a good idea to consider.
I think that's a great distinction too, is thinking through like what is it that you actually want to do, and maybe it's not necessarily running a whole business if you can loop into something else. So I thought that was a great example of just thinking through what are you trying to really accomplish before jumping full speed in, because it's always challenging no matter what you're doing, but to run a business, especially from the ground up. Thank you so much, Wendy, for joining us. This was very helpful. I'm sure that we have a number of listeners who will be checking out your app and organization in general, and just really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today.
We are grateful to share our expertise. You can find me, Wendy, at Inquentro.com, at INCUENTRO.com, and we are actively upgrading our website and our app at the moment. So if anybody looks today, look again in about 6 weeks, and they will be pleasantly surprised. So thank y'all again for all you do, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode of Women's Wealth, The Middle Way. Make sure to subscribe to us and leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcast app. Join us for new episodes every other Wednesday. See you in 2 weeks.